The first big election night of Donald Trump's second presidency is in the books. And I have winners and I have losers. Oh, yeah. All right, so let's get to it. First of all, let's go through what happened. So there were two special House elections in Florida, and there was a Wisconsin State Supreme Court race. In Florida, in two very Republican districts, Republicans won. In the first district, Jimmy Patronis, the Republican, won by 15 points in a district that Donald Trump last November won by 37 points. In the 6th district, State Senator Randy Fine got elected by 14 points over his Democratic opponent in a district that Donald Trump won by 30 points. And in Wisconsin, Susan Crawford, the liberal, the Democratic-aligned court nominee, beat Brad Schimmel, the conservative Republican-aligned nominee, by 10 in a state that Donald Trump won, albeit narrowly, by about a point in November 2024. So I'm a positive guy, right? I'm a positive guy. So let's start with winners, and then we'll do losers after that. All right, winners. The Democratic Party. Look, yes, they lost 2 of the 3 elections, big elections that were on the ballot, but all signs point to positives, right? Both the Florida Democrats significantly overperformed, one by 22 points, one by 16 points. To have that happen in districts that are overwhelmingly Republican shows you that the Democratic base in a low turnout election is very fired up. In Wisconsin, this is a swing state. Anytime you win in a swing state in a statewide election, whether it's for president or state Supreme Court, by 10, you got to be really, really happy. Democrats have not had a lot to be happy about. I still think they have major league brand problems. But what this showed is it gives them something to hang their hat on, something to say, this was good. We did well. And builds a little bit of momentum. And you know what? Politics, like life, is a lot about forward momentum. And I think this will help Democrats get some, although, as I've said before, be wary of making predictions about what this means for the midterm elections. There's a lot of time between now and then. There's going to be a much larger turnout between now and then. But look, this is a good day and night for Democrats. And honestly, they haven't had many of those since November 5th, 2024. Second winner. 2017 comparisons. So if you've been following me both here on YouTube and on my Substack, you know that I've talked a lot about 2017, which was an election, a year, an off year, post Donald Trump's election, in which we saw Democrats consistently overperforming in special elections. They won a special election in a Pennsylvania House race. Connor Lamb was the guy who won that in a pretty Republican district. And it just seemed as though the signs were pointing that 2018 was going to be a very good year in a midterm election for House Democrats. And it was. They took back the majority. They won dozens of seats. This is looking like 2017, at least so far, because we've seen Democrats win in Iowa, a Republican state Senate seat. We've seen Democrats win a Pennsylvania Republican state Senate seat, flipping both of those. And we've now seen Democrats overperform in those 2 Florida seats and in a statewide election in Wisconsin. Again, it is not determinative, but it does suggest that there's some winds blowing with the Democratic base angry and ready to turn out and the Republican base less enthused. That, to me, makes some sense as we talk about 2017. Another winner, Decision Desk HQ. Now, you may not know Decision Desk HQ, but you should. They power a lot of the calls at these major networks, including News Nation, where I am a political contributor, where they make their calls. Decision Desk HQ continues its streak of being first and right in these calls. They were first to call these races again. They were right in calling these races. Give Scott Tranter, the founder of Decision Desk HQ, and his team over there a ton of credit. You may not have heard of them. They don't get as much publicity as some of these places, but man, do they do a good job. Last winner, Wisconsin television and radio station owners. So if you followed the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, it is the most expensive state court race ever. Price tag is going to be, I think, well over $100 million. The previous record was $56 million, also in Wisconsin. $100 million, the vast majority of which is going on to TV and radio ads. So if you had a TV or radio station in Wisconsin, my gosh, you are in good shape. And good news, next April and the following April, there are state Supreme Court elections in Wisconsin too, so you're probably going to be pretty set. Go ahead and build that new deck off your house. All right, before I go to losers, let me just simply say, I want you to subscribe to what I am doing. Independent, authentic, nonpartisan, not owned by anyone, calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. Now more than ever it matters. I need you to subscribe. Simple as that. I need your support. Got it? Got it. Good. Losers. Here we go. This is the one that everybody always likes more. I save it for a second. It's like eating your dessert. Number one biggest loser, no question, Elon Musk. So Elon Musk made the Wisconsin State Supreme Court a referendum on himself. Not only because he donated upwards of $20 million across a variety of channels through super PACs, through the state party. He was by far the largest giver. And yes, Republicans, I know George Soros gave money. I know Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker gave money. They both gave nearly seven-figure or slightly more than seven-figure donations, but nowhere near what Elon Musk gave. Musk also decided to go to the state on Sunday night. He did a rally where he wore a cheese head in Green Bay, clearly trying to say, people say that I can't win a race, or people say I'm unpopular and being linked to me is bad, but I'm going to prove it's not. Well, he, at least in this race, proved the opposite. To lose by 10 points in a swing state like Wisconsin, there just aren't that many 10-point margins in statewide races in Wisconsin, suggests to me that Elon Musk needs to stay off the campaign trail for Republican candidates. If he wants to give a bunch of money so they can pay for ads and the like, probably fine. But for him to play a high-profile role right at the end of a campaign does not seem to me to be a recipe for success in 2025. I think this was a major setback for him, and I'm really interested to see whether it impacts how Donald Trump views him. Remember, Donald Trump likes winners, and there is no question that Elon Musk was the biggest loser on Tuesday, no matter what he says. Okay, second loser, it's a twofer. Brian Steele and Derek Van Orden. Now, you may not have heard of these guys, but they're both Republican members of Congress from Wisconsin. And one of the big things that got decided in that state Supreme Court race is that liberals are going to have a 4-3 majority, no matter what happens in the next two state Supreme Court races in 2026 and 2027. Liberals are going to have a 4-3 majority, at least, going into redistricting, going into the redrawing of congressional lines, which happens every 10 years. Steele and Van Orden are probably the two who could be targeted the most in terms of having their districts redrawn in ways that either make them make it impossible for them to win again, put them in a really difficult race, maybe against another incumbent, or force them into retirement. Derek Van Orden has basically said as much, that they're probably screwed if liberals hold the court. Well, liberals held the court. So look for those two to be looking for other opportunities between now and 2032. Third loser, Elise Stefanik. So Elise Stefanik is a New York congresswoman. She was not involved in the races yesterday, but Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations was pulled by Donald Trump because Trump and his political folks were worried that they might lose the Florida 6th district race. And if they did, and they had Stefanik leaving, they'd have a one-seat majority, which was too hard to pass anything, including this big, beautiful Trump budget bill, right? Well, Republicans won both of those seats. Yes, they underperformed Trump, both candidates, but they won, right? Which means Stefanik is back in the House. She's not going to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And yes, Republicans still have a small 3-seat majority, but I bet Stefanik is saying, ugh, golly, why do you didn't need me. You know, it's like, hey, we might need you in this game, and then you never play. Oh, you didn't need me. So tough beat for Elise Stefanik there. Last loser, the Trump coalition. So I think one of the critical pieces of this election, 2026 and 2028, is if Donald Trump is not on the ballot, and he won't be on the ballot in 2026, and I don't think he'll be on the ballot in 2028, can the coalition he has built in 2016 and 2024, so that's younger people, people who are less likely to vote, less people who pay less attention to elections, non-white voters, white voters without a college education. Can that coalition work? Will they turn out for people who are not Donald Trump or without Donald Trump on the ballot? Well, in Wisconsin, they didn't, right? Trump wins Wisconsin in 2024. Brad Schimmel loses by 10 points a few months later. So I think this is the first sort of big data point on whether the Trump coalition works without Trump, whether they turn out without Trump. It's not good news for Republicans who are banking on that Trump coalition. It's not the last data point. Again, don't draw too many conclusions from slow turnout special elections in April of an off year, 18 months before another election. But you'd much rather win than lose, and there's no question that there are a lot more Democrats on my winners list and losers on my Republican list Republicans on my loser list than either side would want, right? So this was a good night for Democrats, not a perfect night, but a good night for Democrats, a bad night for the Elon Musk and the Trump coalition, and that's what I got to say. So, as always, I ask you to subscribe to what I'm doing, like what I'm doing, tell people about what I'm doing. Those are the things that are most important to me. It's the way that we grow. I'm an independent news creator. I need your support, financial and otherwise. So I hope you can give it to me. All right, everybody, take care.